sorry, I have to break it to you. If you're thinking about getting into watercolors, just forget it. First of all, there's the expense.
Well, hello there. I didn't hear you come in. Come on back. I'm really glad you could make it today.
Will people laugh at you?
I'm just sitting down here to watch a recap of our last art room video about watercolor painting. I love this part. And I'm hoping you got through our abstract landscape with flying colors. Well, this time around, we're going to expand your skill set with a more realistic picture. Imagine a setting sun over the water with beautiful reflections and lots of detail. Let's get back to the art room so we can start another great watercolor painting. Okay, welcome back to the art room for another watercolor lesson. And if you're back here, I'm assuming that maybe you did okay with our first abstract watercolor. We're doing a little deeper dive this time into it. And when you do something like this, it's always good to have reference. Here's a few pictures that I've plucked off the internet to help me, whether or not you print them out or keep them on your iPad or just have them nearby, maybe on your computer so you can look at them, kind of give you some great ideas for clouds and all kinds of reflective things. So we're working on a full-size piece of paper this time. How about that? So I've got my line drawn for my horizon on my paper, and like we did in our last lesson, I'm cutting out a sticky paper setting sun back there. And you can skip this step if you don't like it. You can make a little circle out of something else later on, like masking fluid, but sticky paper really works. So I'm going to stick that sun out there above the horizon line, and I've got my X marks the spot on it, so I kind of remember where everything is, and I don't paint too much around it. So my 1-inch brush, I'm going to dip into some clear water here and just start wetting down the top part of our horizon with some clear water like that. I'm going to go about halfway up, 3/4 of the way up, get it nice and wet. And then my 1/2-inch brush that's pretty thick, holds a lot of paint. I'm going to go into some orange and red mix and right across the top and let that blend in, and just see how far that will go up into our sky. It's that hazy sunset. Let's put a little yellow in it just to kind of liven things up a little bit. Well, I like that. And up into the sky with some more yellow. And a nice little yellow streak maybe across the sky, just to kind of make it more interesting. Here's some blue violet going in at the top, and I'm using a little bit of water to blend things together, and just kind of letting it blend. A little bit darker, deeper, richer blue at the top, and I'm stirring that in well too. I just love this part when we're beginning. There's so many possibilities of how this is going to go. Just love it when it's all blending together. Here's my 1-inch brush, and I'm polishing things up with a little just clear water, trying to get the watercolors to move and blend a little bit. I'm going to try to stop using the word random. I think on our last episode I must have used it 10 times. It's kind of it's a good word for watercolor, but maybe overused by me mainly. So with some straight red across the bottom of the horizon, and then blending that in with some more clear water and letting it happen. I've already got some neat kind of granulation happening. See what's happening at the top of the sky there, that blue, the way that's kind of granulating out that neat line that I've got going across. I think we can use that. And I think I'll start paying attention to the water part here with some yellow, nice yellow, right up against the horizon line, which is kind of dried down just a little bit. And let's add some red to that. I'm just working dry on dry paper here at this point, blending it around with a wet brush, and some blue down towards the bottom of the picture plane there and let that all blend together with my 1-inch brush. Okay, oh, that's looking great. Hope you're doing okay so far. Little richer blue at the very bottom there. Yeah. So we're really trying to make a little bit of a mirror image about what's going on at the top of our picture, up in the sky area. Okay, I think it's time to start thinking about clouds here. So I've got a mix watered down of blue and a little bit of violet, and my Sumi brush, which holds a lot of water and paint, and I'm making some kind of sketchy marks. Looking over at one of my reference photos when I do this, and they're very much kind of pointed back in perspective, these cloud shapes, and I'm trying to keep it loose. Added a little violet to that one there, and keep your brush moving, kind of dancing across the paper. And it's sometimes hard to imagine doing clouds like this because a little bit of black there I put into a little more black, and I wanted to show you this last mistake here that I made with too much black here. Here it comes. So there you go. So when you make a mistake like that, all you have to do is pinch the water out of your brush, pinch it out again, and just use it as a little vacuum cleaner there, and take that right back off your paper while it's still wet. So back to my clouds, trying to give them a little more weight and keeping my brush moving and feathering it as I go. Sometimes adding a little water to the brush, like that spot right there looked like it was drying up too fast, so I went back in with some clear water and feathered that in a little bit. So of course, as you get down towards the horizon, you want your clouds to be smaller and stretched out, and these clouds at the bottom of my paper are a little bit more violet, but I'm adding some other bits up here at the top, and just having a blast with this. Let's go and get some red and orange here, and I'm gonna go underneath my cloud shapes to give them a little bit of a sunset reflection as the sun casts a little bit of that red up into the cloud layer. It's kind of neat when you hit that point where you even surprise yourself and these colors start to blend out, and you start to think, well, you know what? Those look like clouds. How did I do that? Well, that's kind of the magic of watercolor, that these things happen because of the blending and the watercolors just spreading out, and of course a lot of it's you too. Yeah, adding a little weight to the bottom of the clouds with a little bit darker blue and violet mix here, trying to make it look like they've got a little bit of a mass to them. Okay, so it's time to do kind of an island projection, and I've got my Sumi brush loaded up with some violet and blue and a touch of black, and I'm gonna make just this projection out. It's kind of lumpy and kind of got different shapes that are sticking up, and they all suggest trees, maybe different things happening out on that island, sitting right on top of the horizon line. So now I'm going to go into my red here and make it seem that there's a little bay back there, and we can do that by just making that bit of it look red. Red's one of those colors that kind of recedes in the background, so it looks automatically like it's farther back, at least in this composition, because of it looks like it's in the distance, and that's what we're going for, these different layers. We're still kind of in the background, so another little land projection here with my blue and violet and a little bit of black mix. Switching over to a little smaller brush, I want some more little definite shapes and bumps and things on this little bit here, so I'm working with a little bit smaller brush here. Okay, back into my red, and what I want to do with this is lay the brush down, and I've got a lot of water in that brush here. I'm taking a little bit off, and I'm going right down the horizon line and laying this red and water mixture by making my brush, hopping up and down and trying to mimic the shapes that are on the other side of the horizon. You can see a lot of water in my brush. Okay, and back into my darker color here again. And I've got my tiny bristle brush here. Let me show you what I'm doing here. I've got a lot of paint and hardly any water, and I want these scratchy kind of marks that I'm making that look like real. Maybe they're like reeds coming up out of the water. They're like little grassy projections coming up out of the water, and I'm working that in. So with some red then around the bottom of this island, red's just a great color. It kind of unifies everything, makes it look like some of that sun is hitting that part of our little island. So with another island shape, another little kind of a little promontory kind of thing sticking out into our lake here, pond. Here I am with my big sumi brush again, and violet and blue and a little bit of black stirred in, and trying to create another land mass. Now this is a fan brush that I've got. I normally use it with acrylics, but it's good for a lot of things. And while my island is wet, I'm going to see if I can stretch up a lot of that paint. Looks like I'm going to have to add a little more because I'm getting a little dry. Trying to add some interest to that land area by bringing up these strokes with my fan brush. Okay, and then right back into my red and try to, I like that. Try to incorporate some red into that and give it a kind of unified look with the rest of my islands there by adding that red right out of my set. Hey, we're off to a good start. So on the other side with my half-inch brush now, I'm going to make another land mass over here. It's just another place I'm just making up. And I'm going to put some details that there's little marks here and there. They look like they could be trees, maybe, growing up on that island. Yeah, that's what they are. Just an indication. And then down in the water, a mirror image, not quite, but some other shapes that look like they are reflected. Okay, great. Okay, now you hardly ever use white in watercolor, but this is a good example of how white works sometimes. And to say it's white, it really isn't. It's really hard to get a straight white in watercolor, but for our use here, it's really a good color. It's a very muted kind of a grayish white. And I'm painting in just a little rectangular tilty shape there that's the roof of our barn back there, or house. And so I'm going to let that dry for a minute, and here we go with a little bit thinner brush. I'm going to pull in a tree trunk, and trees can be difficult if you don't stay, there's that word random, so always be working your wrist around, always be changing directions. Don't make them too straight, it'll look stiff. And right now I've got to pause. If you don't have a good pointy detail brush, pause the video and go out and get one because this part will drive you crazy. But as you can see, I've got this is a really fine detail brush that I've got here, and I'm just laying in some branches with that mix of blue, black, and violet. And I like for most branches to start by just touching the tip of the brush down on the surface and then pulling back. Sometimes I don't do that, but just bring it right back into the tree itself, kind of painting them backwards. I think I'll put a second tree trunk down here. It's more like a like a bush, I guess it's growing here. It's not a very tidy looking tree, but with that comes kind of a realism, don't you think? Oop, I messed that one up. See that blob at the end there? Shouldn't have done that, but hey, that'll work in somehow. Maybe that's a leaf or something. And keep working on the tree. The tree really sells it. It's the star of the show. And as you'll see here in a minute, I keep going back to the tree. Just when I think I've had enough branches, I like to go back in and see if I can add more. So there I'm kind of reversing my technique there with some of these really tiny branches reaching out. Of course, you need your brush to be very, very wet when you're doing this. And be patient with yourself on this part. It's the trickiest part, really, the tree. And so, well, I guess I'm just doing more and more branches. I just can't leave this alone. The more branches you get, the more really realistic the whole thing's going to look. So let's let that dry for a minute. I'm going to go over to our barn, and with my fine detail brush, I'm going to see if I can outline that barn roof there that's sitting on the island back there. And this is, of course, a little bit of violet, blue, and some black mixed in. And let's kind of shape that up a little bit. And right across. Okay, good. Just like we did in our other picture last time, I'm going to add an outbuilding here. I don't know what the outbuilding is. It's just going to give some visual interest to your barn over there, or house, whatever you think that might be. Okay, well, I'm going to try a little tree here behind the barn. And of course, this needs the lightest of touches, the skinniest, tiniest lines you can make with that detail brush that you've got. Yeah, get one. I know we're always talking about not spending a lot of money, but a good detail brush. It's going to be shaped like this, and like long and thin. I'm wiggling it back and forth with just some water to put some nice reflections of the paint into the water. A little bit there. That works, I think. Oh yeah. And back to the tree again with some more details, more branches. And kind of thinking about the tree as a three-dimensional thing, it would be natural to just put branches to the left and to the right, but how about some branches that are facing to the back of the page? They're on the other side, or maybe branches that are facing directly at you. Try some branches like that and see how they would look. Really starting to shape up, and it's the little ones, the ones that are off in the distance on the other side of the tree. You can use a lot more water, make them almost see-through, make them a little bit lighter, and they will appear to recede in your picture if they're a little bit lighter. Okay, well, I think my island needs some more detail, so back to that fan brush. I'm going to dip it into some black and violet and blue, and you might want to test this out on a piece of paper first. See if it'll make these marks. It takes a lot of paint and not much water, and that really adds to the realism of our island there, if you can add some of those details. Okay, and then finally, with my detail brush, I'm going to be stroking down and making, there's weeds and grass and all kinds of brambles and things that are growing up on our island, and showing those in kind of a different directions for a lot of the grass. So here we go, back into the thin brush again for some grass around our tree, and just kind of filling things in. And why not? I just can't leave it alone. More branches on our tree. stick with this part. It's really, as we said, the tree is really what establishes the foreground because it's in such sharp focus, so that really gives you a lot of depth. And coming back to our barn again here, I'm going to add some structure like tree trunks to those little blobs there that we made. And then finally with a little clear water, I'm going to drag some of that around and do a little bit more blending with my brush. So peel off the sun, and that's the end of our watercolor picture. I hope you did well with that. Oh man, that was a lot to ask. But I hope you learned a little bit, and I hope you've been able to hang in there with us on this. It really was a lot of fun. So remember, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, you got something to be proud of. You're an artist. So stick with it. And we'll see you back here next time in Mr. Shay's Art Room.